Chairperson, I thought I should start off by just outlining what we inherited as this democratic government, so that you can put in perspective the criticism that you often hear about the levels of crime in our country. I think the first point that must be made is that the repressive apartheid regime perpetrated untold suffering, humiliation, and hardship on the majority of our people. But perhaps less clearly understood is the debilitating effect it had on the criminal justice system. A large component of the resources allocated to the law enforcement agencies was focused on dealing with political activity instead of on ordinary crime. Consequently, there was very little skill and expertise that was developed over the years to properly investigate and prosecute crime. The second point that I want to make is that the regime sanctioned the use of violence as a legitimate investigative tool. As a result, it was not uncommon for convictions to be based on confessions which were extracted under duress. Thirdly, the illegitimacy of the regime engendered in itself lawlessness and disrespect for the rule of law. Very often people felt morally justified in breaking the law. As you know, people don't commit an offense not because it is illegal to do so. People behave appropriately because it is correct to do so. In South Africa, that carried no moral opprobrium. So it was not unethical to break the law because people did not associate themselves with the law, could not identify themselves with that law. And finally, of course, the police officers, the prosecutors, they lack legitimacy in the eyes of the public. Now, the difficulty that we had in terms of the transition, if we can move to the next slide. The transition to the democratic South Africa itself, which was based on a Bill of Rights, was arguably more traumatic for the criminal justice system than any other sphere of government. Whereas prosecutors and police officers had previously pledged loyalty to the apartheid government and defended it against its detractors, they now found themselves accountable to the very same people whom they had been prosecuting and persecuting all the years. Secondly, the demands of the Bill of Rights proved extremely onerous to a system that was premised on the denial of human rights to a significant portion of the population. The democratization of South Africa also opened up its borders, not only to the tourists, but also to international drug syndicates, which were attracted to the country because of its strategic geographic location, its sophisticated banking system, and most importantly, its many poorly managed border posts. This led to a rapid increase in the number of international drug syndicates operating in the country. And the growth of these international drug syndicates led to an increase in the types of violent crimes most commonly associated with them, such as carjacking, gun smuggling, gang warfare. The inability of the criminal justice system to deal with this phenomenon in turn led to the rise in the vigilante groups such as Pagat in the Western Cape, which themselves resorted to violence to deal with the problems. So the national government had to adopt a number of strategies to deal with these problems. Firstly, the new government introduced amendments to the Criminal Procedure Act, which radically changed the way in which bail has been dealt with. The amendments have enabled the courts to prevent the improper release of serious offenders on bail. Secondly, we introduced the laws which impose a tough minimum sentences on those who have been convicted for serious and violent crimes. Thirdly, we introduced the new law known as the Prevention of Organized Crime Act. It created the racketeering offenses and is largely based on the US RICI statute and criminalized gang activity. It also incorporated money laundering offenses and made provision for the confiscation of instruments used in the commission of an offense as well as proceeds of crime. And fourthly, we created the National Prosecuting Authority Office. If you can move to Now, the advantages of this has been, one, the creation of the uniform prosecution policy, which is countrywide, the creation of the crime combating strategies which are coordinated and driven on a national basis. There's been an improved communications at the head office level between the police and ourselves, which has resulted in improvement in the efficiency of the prosecution, which has had a number of positive spin-offs. And during this process, we have been able to forge strategic alliances, one with the United Nations Office for Drug Control, two with the FBI and Scotland Yard. We are in the process of sending 50 new recruits to Quantico in Washington for training as investigating officers. Another 50 will be leaving the country also to go to Scotland Yard for training. Now, the effect of all this is that we have been able to create the Directorate of Special Operations, that is the Scorpions, which has been established last year by the President in order to deal, was established in order to address escalation in national priority crimes, as well as also to deal with serious economic offenses, particularly in areas such as KwaZulu-Natal and the Western Cape. Already its formation, we have seen some major breakthroughs. In areas like the Western Cape, for example, and in KwaZulu-Natal, where we were experiencing serious political violence. As I'm talking to you to date, we can safely say with confidence that that problem has been dealt with. We no longer encounter that political violence in that province. We're seriously addressing the problems of urban terrorism in the Western Cape, and a number of the culprits have been apprehended. As I'm talking to you, they are behind bars. We've also been in a position to set up what is known as the Asset Forfeiture Unit. As a result of the law that I've referred to, it has been empowered to remove the financial base from crime operations, and it has proved indeed very, very effective in dealing with organized crime, particularly the syndicates, because invariably you find that the crime bosses, you do not have sufficient evidence in order to be able to convict them, because they are able to use junior officials in their syndicate who are the ones who dirty their hands, and the bosses, they remain far away removed from it. Now, the possibility has now been created for us to be able to attach their assets using the provisions of the asset forfeiture laws, so that we're able to use it. In a sense, what one can say is the following. Since the formation of our office, working together with SAPS and the intelligence community, we've turned the corner. We're very confident that within another year or so, the figures that my learned colleague, Assistant Commissioner Price, showed you will show a significant improvement. So taken together, the cumulative effect of all the strategies that have been adopted have begun to bear fruit. I thank you.